adoption, and he adopted Nero. Now, Claudius had a daughter. Her name was Octavia. And when Nero saw Octavia, he said to himself, I'd like to marry her. And so he went to Claudius and said, I'd like to marry your daughter. Now, remember, they're not what? They're not related blood-wise. So you say, okay, you're not related blood-wise. That'd be okay? It took an act of the Senate to override the rule of adoption because the adoption was so strong. That in the eyes of Roman adoption, when you are adopted, you are the very child of that father. And all the rights. And not only was Roman adoption so strong, when you were adopted, it took 7 witnesses to sign the adoption papers that they were there and actually saw the adoption take place. So if the father died, when the father died, you had 7 witnesses that could say, yes, this person is adopted and he get all the rights of inheritance. And again, they have just as much inheritance rights as the natural born children of his father. That's Roman adoption. And this is what Paul is talking about when he talks about this example of being adopted into God's family. It was permanent once you were adopted. And as we look at our text, knowing that a person through that process is adopted, now permission is given that adopted child to say something that that child could never have said in any other culture of adoption. And what does Paul say there? We cry out what? And notice the word is we cry out. In the Greek it means with great emotion. We cry out, Abba, Father. That's a transliteration of the Aramaic, Abba, Father. Now, this is significant, folks. If there's one point you want to get from our study today, remember this point. No Jew living in Christ's day was ever allowed to say and use the expression, my Father, when referring to God. It was not allowed. That history goes all the way back to the 2nd century BC. The 2nd century BC, when they taught that you could not ever on your lips say the word God, and especially not call him what? My Father. This title is brand new with Jesus. And when his disciples are hearing this, and guess where they heard it? This is the title also that Jesus used in the Garden of Gethsemane, Mark 14:36. When he cried out what? Abba, Father. Jesus, as a matter of fact, there's been 3 studies on this that have studied all the extra biblical sources, the Bible sources and everything, and they've all come to the conclusion Jesus always used this title when he prayed. Always. There was only one time that he never used the title when he referred to his Father, never used the title Abba, and that's when he was on the cross. You remember what he said? My what? My God, why hast thou forsaken me? For all the other times he uses this expression, Abba. And he gives his disciples permission to use the word Abba when referring to God the Father. They think this isn't big. This is big time, folks. This is really big time. 2nd century BC describes when they would translate in the Bible, they made a rule, you could never mouth the name of God. And so in the Hebrew you had these 4 consonants, which we transliterate Y, H, W, H. And when you were translating it, if you wanted to read it, you had to substitute the vowel points for Adonai into these consonants. And you were not allowed ever to really say the name, which translates today, what is that name? Yahweh. Matter of fact, there was so much secrecy that we really don't even know today really what God's name, how it should be pronounced using these 4 consonants. They kept it such a secret. You could never do that.